A government stripped a town off every map, cut its power grid, and in September 2022 sent officers to evict the last person still living there, an 80-year-old woman. The place they erased sits on some of the most spectacular gorge country in the nation, right on the doorstep of a national park. It is also one of the largest contaminated sites in the southern hemisphere. Most Australians picture the Pilbara as red dirt and iron ore wealth. They do not picture a town the state decided should stop existing. That town is coming. Keep it in mind. This channel covers the Australia that the price comparison websites and the tourism reels can't quite bring themselves to show you. The beauty is always real. So is what it costs. If that's the version you're after, subscribe now. We find the places the brochures get half right. Number 10. Cervantes, Western Australia. The limestone spires of the pinnacles rise out of yellow desert sand about a kilometre from town, and every morning tour buses roll north from Perth, walk the loop, take the photo and drive back. The town they pass through on the way, Cervantes, is what they don't stop for. About 480 people live here, down from 527 at the 2016 census. The median age is 55. The town is roughly 198 kilometres north of Perth, which should make it commuter belt. Instead, it's a crayfishing outpost that didn't exist before 1962, when around 505 hectares were carved from what is now Nambung National Park to house rock lobster workers. It took its name from an American whaling ship wrecked on this coast in 1844, and its streets carry Spanish names Valencia, Madrid, Seville, in a nod to that same literary thread. Indian Ocean Drive opened in 2010. That's when the visitor traffic picked up. That's also when it became clear the visitors weren't really visiting Cervantes. They were passing through it. The entire economy is Western rock lobster and a few months of summer trade. One species, one ocean. When the export market softens, every business on the main street feels it inside a week. There's no second pillar to lean on. Closer to Perth than most outer suburbs and emptying anyway. Number 9. Zeehan, Tasmania. Picture this. You're standing in front of a theatre that once seated over 1,000 people. Grand facade, built in 1898 at a cost of more than £7,000, billed at the time as the largest concert hall in the country. It screened one of the first feature films ever made in 1907. And the town around it now holds 722 people. That is Zeehan. 4 hours from Hobart on the wet west coast of Tasmania, in country that receives close to 2,500 millimetres of rain a year. The silver lead boom that built this place began when prospector Frank Long pegged an outcrop near Mount Zeehan on the 8th of December 1882. The mountain had been named by Matthew Flinders in 1798 after one of Abel Tasman's ships, the Zeehan. By 1901, the census recorded 5,014 people. The district supported 159 mining companies and its own stock exchange. The School of Mines opened in 1894. The Gaiety Theatre opened 4 years later. The boom built a place that believed it would be permanent. The ore ran thin. The people followed. What's left is a heritage streetscape of real grandeur. The Gaiety, the School of Mines building, the West Coast Heritage Centre, wrapped around an economy that hollowed out more than a century ago, in a remote corner of Tasmania most mainlanders never reach. The grandest ruin on the island that isn't technically a ruin yet. Number 8. Marysville, Victoria. The mountain ash forest that makes Marysville beautiful is the same forest that nearly erased it. That is not a metaphor. That is the fire behaviour reality that every resident lives inside each summer. On the 7th of February 2009, Black Saturday, the afternoon Melbourne recorded 46.4 degrees. The Murrindindi Mill fire reached Marysville at around 6:45 in the evening. Close to 90% of the town's buildings were destroyed. 34 people were killed in Marysville itself. Landmarks that had defined the town for generations were gone. The population was 519 before the fire. It fell to 226 by 2011. It has climbed back, 394 by 2016, around 500 by 2021. The town has rebuilt genuinely and seriously. Bruno's Art and Sculpture Garden reopened in 2011 with 100 new works. The Stevenson Falls, a 122-metre cascade, survived and still draws visitors along the rebuilt roads. The town is about 100 kilometres northeast of Melbourne, sitting at 430 metres in the Great Dividing Range, and it is beautiful again. Every hot northerly in summer is information though. Residents watch the Fire app, the way other people check the radar before a weekend away. The scenery and the risk come from the same trees. The town came back into the exact landscape that burned it. Number 7, Broken Hill, New South Wales. In January 2015, the federal government added the entire city to the National Heritage List. First whole city in Australia to receive that status. The reason is a boomerang-shaped ore body, the Line of Lode, that formed roughly 1,800 million years ago, runs 7.3 kilometres long and reaches more than 1.6 kilometres underground. A boundary rider named Charles Raspe pegged the first claim here in 1883. He and 6 associates, the Syndicate of 7, incorporated BHP in 1885 to work it. What followed was a city, not just a town, built 1,150 kilometres from Sydney and only 500 from Adelaide, so oriented toward the wrong state that Broken Hill runs on Adelaide time. The architecture reflects the belief that this was a permanent place. Grand buildings, wide streets, institutions. The Line of Lode Miners Memorial records more than 800 men killed underground. 2 of the longest strikes in Australian history were fought here, 1909 and then the 18-month stoppage across 1919 and 1920, the second winning Australia's first 35-hour working week. The population peaked near 30,000 in the early 1960s. It's around 17,500 now. Mining employs about 7% of the workforce, roughly matched by the hospitals. A city built on a finite ore body is always counting down, and the architecture is starting to look like a monument to what came before. The first city on the National Heritage List, because the thing it was built for is almost gone. You've just seen a whole city added to the Heritage List while it loses a third of its people. Coming up, a place where the football oval cannot grow grass, not through neglect, but because the air itself spent a century killing everything. Number 6, Andamuka, South Australia. The streets curve here because the mining claims came first and the streets came later. That tells you most of what you need to know about Andamuka. About 262 people live in this opal town, 600 kilometres north of Adelaide, reached by a single sealed road that spurs off the Stuart Highway past Roxby Downs. Summer heat climbs into the high 40s. Houses change hands for around $70,000. Opal was found in 1930 by 2 boundary riders, Sam Brooks and Roy Shepherd, reportedly sheltering from a thunderstorm when they noticed it. The settlement that grew has no formal town plan. The dugout homes some residents built in the 1930s are now heritage listed under their owners' names. The most famous stone from this field, the 200 3-carat Andamuka opal, mined in 1949, cut and polished by a man named John Altman. Set in an 18-carat palladium necklet with diamonds, was presented to Queen Elizabeth II on her first royal tour in 1954. The town peaked at around 2,000 people in the 1960s and has been thinning ever since. The median age now is 57. Close to a third of residents are over 65. 1 gemstone, 1 road, and a population that ages out slowly rather than leaves in a rush. A royal jewel came out of this ground, and the ground is slowly winning. Number 5, Queenstown, Tasmania. The hills above Queenstown look like somewhere the rules of the natural world stopped applying. Orange and grey, bare rock, sulphur stripped, washed clean of soil by a century of heavy rain. The kind of landscape that makes first-time visitors check whether they've taken a wrong turn. They haven't. This is what human industry and Tasmanian rainfall produce when they work together for long enough. Between 1896 and 1923, roughly 3 million tonnes of timber were felled to feed the copper smelters. At peak, the smelters burned around 2,000 tonnes of timber a week. The sulphur fumes finished off what the felling started. Even the football oval, gravel surface because turf could never survive, is evidence of what the air once was. The town, in its boom, held over 5,000 people. Grand survivors remain. the 1901 Empire Hotel with its National Trust listed Blackwood Staircase and the old Outback Railway, now operating as the West Coast Wilderness Railway for tourists. The North Mount Lyell fire of October 1912 killed 42 of the 170 men underground, Tasmania's worst mining disaster. The Mount Lyell copper mine has been on care and maintenance since 2014, idled after 3 men died underground in late 2013 and early 2014. The operator was later fined $225,000. The population is around 1,800. Houses sell for around $180,000. The mine that built the town has been shut for a decade, and nothing the same size has arrived to replace it. The most alien landscape in Tasmania, made entirely by human hands and now abandoned by them. 5 towns left, and they get harder. Still coming, a near ghost town of 48 people that has hosted more than 140 film productions. And then the one I told you about at the start, the town the government decided no one should live in at all. Number 4, Silverton, New South Wales. Picture this. You're driving 26 kilometres northwest of Broken Hill through flat red desert, and you arrive at a town that runs its own cemetery. 402 identified graves across 42 acres for a current population of about 48. That is the ratio. Silverton. Silver was struck here in 1875. The town was surveyed in 1883, had its own municipal council by 1886, and by the mid-1880s held around 3,000 people. Then the richer Broken Hill Lode pulled everyone away. The population fell below 300 by 1901. Silverton was struck from the municipal register in 1906. The Silverton Tramway kept operating its freight from 1888 until 1970, approximately 57 million tonnes over its life. But the town it served had essentially gone. Even the water came from outside. The Umberka Reservoir, completed 9 kilometres west in 1915. What kept the place on the map since then is film. More than 140 productions have shot here, most famously Mad Max 2 in 1981. And a dedicated Mad Max 2 museum opened in town in 2010. The 1889 Silverton Jail, abandoned by the 1930s and since restored as an 18-room museum, anchors the visit along with the town cemetery. For the 48 people who remain, Broken Hill is where you go for everything. Groceries, medical care, any service worth naming. 48 people, 140 films, and a cemetery that remembers 3,000 more. Number 3, Ravenswood, Queensland. Gold was found here in 1868 by a stockman named Marmaduke Kerr, who noticed it in Elphinstone Creek while mustering cattle, making Ravenswood the first significant goldfield in North Queensland. Eventually the state's 5th largest producer. By 1872, the town had a Chinese community of around 1,500 people, centred on Dayton Street, with a temple built around 1874 that is the earliest known in Queensland. At its peak, the wider district held around 15,000 people. In 1902, it still ran 29 licensed hotels. Then a strike in 1912 and the First World War broke the field. The town was all but deserted by 1915. What's left is one of the best preserved 19th century streetscapes in the state. 14 sites on the Queensland Heritage Register, with the Imperial and Railway hotels from around 1901 still facing each other across the wide main street, the whole precinct listed in October 2016. The field produced close to 900,000 ounces of gold over its life, with a single peak year of 42,465 ounces in 1905. About 297 people live here now, 130 kilometres south of Townsville. A modern open-cut gold mine works the ground directly behind the heritage streetscape so thoroughly that the local school was relocated to make room for it. The mine employs machines and fly-in, fly-out crews. The pubs are beautiful. The gold that made the town is still coming out of the ground, just not through a community. The mine came back, the town didn't. Number 2, Coober Pedy, South Australia. If you want to know why the housing market in Coober Pedy is reportedly the only one in Australia that hasn't risen in value, here is the arithmetic. The town supplies roughly 95% of the world's gem opal. In 1956, the largest and most valuable gem opal ever found is the Olympic Australis, 17,000 carats, about 3.5 kilograms, came out of the ground here. The fields hold more than 250,000 mine shafts. Houses sell for around $41,000. The opal hasn't run out. The demand hasn't collapsed. The price is $41,000. Opal was found here on the 1st of February 1915 by a 14-year-old named Willie Hutchison. The name comes from the Aboriginal Kupapiti, from white man in a hole, formalised at a town meeting in 1920. The hole is not metaphorical. About 60% of the town's 1,566 residents live underground in carved dugouts because the surface temperature record is 48.3 degrees, set in December 2019, and the earth below holds a constant cool without air conditioning or heating. Returning First World War veterans used to dugouts on the Western Front helped establish the practice. The town now holds underground churches, Catholic, Serbian Orthodox, Anglican, and an underground hotel. They solve the heat by going under it. The distance is the problem that has no solution. 846 kilometres from Adelaide. The gun doesn't even stop in town. It calls it a sighting 42 kilometres away. Every single thing the town can't provide requires a drive south that takes the better part of a day. The population fell more than 11% between the 2016 and 2021 censuses. They solved the heat. Nobody solved the distance. If you've watched this far and recognised a place near you in any of these, a beautiful town that the numbers don't quite add up for, drop it in the comments. We'd genuinely like to know. And now, number one. Number one, Wittenoom, Western Australia. The government of Western Australia degazetted this town in June 2007, cut the power, stripped its name from every road sign and official map, classified it a contaminated site in 2008, passed a Closure Act in March 2022. In September 2022, officers evicted the last resident, Lorraine Thomas, 80 years old, from the place where she had chosen to stay. A bushfire tore through the empty town site that December. Demolition of the last standing buildings began in 2023. This is not a town that emptied. It is a town that was unmade. Wittenoom takes its name from a pastoralist, Frank Wittenoom. Cross-it-alight, blue asbestos. Mining in Wittenoom Gorge began in April 1943 when CSR's subsidiary Australian Blue Asbestos took over ground first pegged by Lang Hancock. The mine operated until the end of 1966, producing around 161,000 tonnes of blue asbestos, for years the country's only domestic source. At peak, in 1961, the town held 881 people. Approximately 7,000 worked the mine and mill across its life. More than 3 million tonnes of tailings were spread through the district and reused as fill, laid into driveways, road base, school playgrounds. Children played on it. The dust went into walls, into the soil, into the foundations of ordinary life. More than 2,000 former residents and workers have since died of asbestos-related disease. The toll is still rising because mesothelioma can take 40 years or more to appear. The Banjima people, traditional owners of this country, are reported to have the highest per capita rate of the disease anywhere in the world. The accounting is not finished. The contaminated area covers 46,840 hectares. To put that in a frame, roughly a fifth the size of the Chernobyl exclusion zone. One of the largest contaminated sites in the Southern Hemisphere, sitting inside some of the most spectacular gorge country in the nation, on the doorstep of Karajini National Park. The waste from the mine still washes down into the park's creeks. What is a beautiful place actually worth if no one can safely live in it? Every other town on this list is paying for its view in some currency you can name. Distance, heat, a single industry, a finite ore body, a fire risk that doesn't go away. Wittenoom paid in lives, and it is still paying. Every postcard on this list is accurate. The crayfishing coast, the silver streetscape, the bare orange hills, the opal desert, the poisoned gorge, all of it is real, and not one image shows you what it costs to stay. Which of these would you actually live in, knowing the catch? And is there a beautiful emptying place near you that belongs on a list like this? Tell us in the comments. And if you want to see what happens when a town like this empties and someone decides to start it again, that's a different kind of Australian story, and it's the next one.